Welcome back to the Sage Intacct Construction Inventory Configuration and Workflow series of videos. In this session, we're going to focus on a specific workflow process that's going to happen directly in inventory. We're going to focus on receiving inventory into stock. And this is going to be if you have a workflow in place where you're not using purchasing, maybe you're posting the GL cost into inventory through accounts payable. And in here, you just need to receive the items into stock. So we'll go through that. And then we'll discuss some inventory transfers between warehouses and how that can work. And also go through some adjustments as far as adjusting your inventory value and quantity up and down based on, possible physical inventory counts and things of that nature. So let's jump right over into the software. And I'm going to go ahead and shrink that down. And basically, I'm going to make sure I'm working at the entity level. But before that, we're going to take a quick look over in the transaction definition setup. So I want to be at top level for that. And I have some scenarios already set up in the system. If I take a look at the all section, I have a receipt where I can go in and just do an inventory receipt. So we'll take a look at that. And then I have some transfers set up where I can do an inventory transfer out and in. And then I have some adjustments set up as well. So what we're going to do is you want to go back and take a look at your transaction definitions and your setup and just kind of preview, make sure your definitions are good to go. And if not, go ahead and create some new ones. So I have a simple one here for inventory receipt, and this receipt is going to update value and quantity. So if I click edit here, this setup should look familiar to you. It's going to be a workflow category of receipt, and I have a number sequencing. This inventory receipt numbering is set up to an inventory numbering sequence called adjust increase. I probably would set up a new one here and just call it inventory receipts and maybe call it IVR or something like that, but create a number sequence just to track your receipts for you. And then you'll notice on our inventory section here, basically we're saying whenever we issue this receipt and we click save, it's going to increase the quantity and value of our inventory. Now, this is the one case where you want to just kind of think about what is happening in your workflow in this scenario. Do we need this to post to the general ledger, or do we just need to update our inventory? So I have it turned on for general ledger, but in some scenarios, you may be just putting in the general ledger entry directly through accounts payable or through general ledger, and you don't need to create a general ledger entry to get it in inventory. You just need to make sure your inventory quantity and value gets updated. So you could elect to say do not post here. And what that means is do not post anywhere else. It's just going to create an inventory transaction in the module. And basically, when we go over to the posting configuration, if we have it checked off to post to general ledger, this is where we can elect to say whenever it's for this item group, it's going to make a debit into the inventory account. If you had multiple warehouses, you could have multiple inventory accounts as well. And in this case, it's going to post to an inventory payable account because, again, we may be putting in an AP bill later on, and that AP bill, we don't want to hit inventory again if we've already done it here. So in that case, when someone puts the AP bill through accounts payable, it's going to hit inventory payable as debit side and credit accounts payable in that scenario. But again, if you elect to not post it, then the GL entry will just happen during the AP bill creation. So that's really the biggest decision to make if you're doing receipts directly through the system. Okay. Let's quickly touch on the other ones and then we'll get into the workflows. So, if I want to do a inventory transfers, so you'll notice here there's two system ones that get set up. There's a warehouse transfer out, warehouse transfer in. And if you notice, they're linked to each other. So what we have to do is you basically enter one at a time, but it converts over. So for example, I usually start with the out as my primary. So we'll create a document definition called warehouse transfer out, and it's going to decrease the on-hand value in that warehouse. We are going to post the general ledger. And what happens is it posts and takes it out of the inventory and debits an inventory transit account. Okay, because then what's going to happen is on the other side of the entry, it's going to debit the inventory and then credit the inventory transaction account. So if you have one inventory GL account, it's really a zero effect. Or if you did have multiple warehouses and multiple GL accounts for warehouses, this is going to be the GC warehouse GL account, and on the other side, you'll debit the inventory for the other account. Okay, so it really depends on how your general ledger structure is set up. And if we go back to the general tab, one thing that you can do is you can elect to transfer back and forth, but in this case, it's a transfer out. And if I go back to my setup, my transfer in, it's going to increase my on hand, and then you'll notice the opposite side here. Okay. And then there's adjustments, and there's a lot of adjustment samples set up in here right now. The thing to focus on and take a look at is your adjustments can be quantity only or quantity and value. Okay, so you'll kind of see them here, and these should come default. But if not, you can create your own. But if I'm going to, if I did a physical count and we had some spoilage or some damage, I need to decrease the value in the system. In this case, do I want to decrease quantity and value or just quantity? So if you look at the setup of these as well, you can see here that down here, you could, under maintain, you can maintain different options. So in this scenario, it's quantity and value, subtract, boom. But if you need different scenarios, you can set them up here based on that. Okay. And this one's a do not post, but you can also have it reduce your inventory as well, depending on your setup. So let's go ahead and do some workflows. So let's jump over to my entity, Timberline General Construction, and let's go do some entries here. So let's go into inventory control. So in this scenario, I want to issue some stock directly to the inventory from the inventory module. So I have a receipt section. I'm going to click on the plus button for inventory receipt, and date, same fields you saw before in the issuing to jobs in the prior session. You'll notice here my columns, I'm issuing an inventory receipt. I don't need columns like project, cost code, all that type of stuff. So again, you can make this particular to the columns that you need for this transaction definition under Edit Entries Layout. And you can also get to your show details, and I could, add columns if I need to. But in this scenario, I just want to say we're going to issue some more 2x4 into this warehouse. And let's say we're going to issue 100 of them. And the cost is this cost, 10.29. Maybe it's 10.33. So you can change that. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and hit post, and that's going to issue it to inventory. And then based on if I turned on my general ledger or not, it's going to post that transaction to the general ledger. And I believe I left that on. So you should see an entry here into inventory and inventory payable for that amount. So that's been received and issued into inventory, and it's as simple as that. And you can see the detail on that as well. Okay, so now that we've received this into the GC warehouse, let's go ahead and do a transfer. Let's say we actually want to receive them into there, but we're going to transfer them over to the other warehouse. So in this scenario, I'm going to go into my entity again, and I'm going to make sure that I'm at the entity level, all, and then I'm going to need to find my transfer. So I want to start with an inventory transfer out. I want to take it out of the GC warehouse. So I'm going to hit the plus button, and it'll say as of today, and I'm going to transfer it to the other warehouse. Now, again, I would make my columns unique in that sense that do I need to, add it to projects? Probably not. So I would typically probably start with this inventory ID column here. We're going to say we're going to take some 2x4s. We're going to take them out of the GC warehouse. And let's say we're going to issue 50. And depending on your inventory valuation method, it's going to pre-fill in accordingly. And we're going to go ahead and issue those. And we're going to just maybe put like a reference number or a message, maybe transfer to res warehouse. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and hit post here. And so notice what I'm doing here is it's only doing the one side of the entry. So you'll see there's my inventory transfer out, and there's my date, and it's pending because I haven't converted it. So then you'll have this convert button here. So now I can say, let's convert that to a transfer in, because I want to transfer it into the residential warehouse. So I can click that button here because they're tied together. And now as of 12/11, I'm going to transfer to the message pre-fills in, which is nice. The item pre-fills in. The only thing I really need to do here is make sure that I change the warehouse, because I want to transfer it to the residential warehouse. 50 of those. And make sure you note your cost here. I think that was 1033. And then I could transfer that over into here as well. So now when I click post, that's actually transferred it in. And now you'll notice, for some reason, if I want to transfer it out, I can click back here and transfer it back out. They're converted, they're connected. You can go back and forth on these back in the system. So what I can do now is if I go take a look at my item here, and let's just type in there it is right there, 2x4. I'm going to go ahead and hit the view button. And you can see here, if I scroll down to the bottom now, my warehouse there, I have 2931, and I have 50 available now in the residential warehouse. So it's as simple as that for an inventory or warehouse transfer. You could do that with transaction definitions built up directly in the inventory module. The last scenario is just doing some adjustments and some valuations, like things like results from physical counts. You need to adjust your inventory on hand. You could do those through adjustments. We looked at kind of how to set those up a second ago in the transaction definitions. And depending on how many definitions you have set up, the system will group them by these different types. So that's why you see some of them going in adjustments, some of them going in transfers. If you have 2 or 3 of them, they're not going to subgroup them here. They're going to actually just show them all straightened up. So your view might look a little bit different depending on how many definitions you have set up. So here I have adjustments. You can see some samples. I have inventory scrap or spoilage, damaged goods. So you can set up all different types of scenarios based on your needs and your workflows. So in this scenario, let's go ahead and say we did a count and we noticed we're 10 short 2x4s. So we're going to go into and make an adjustment in the inventory. And I'm going to hit the plus button here. And so I can link into an existing transaction. I could put a reference in. Physical count adjustment. Could put a scanned in document maybe of my worksheet. And I can say, 2x4s for the GC warehouse. We are 10 short. There's the costing valuation. And what's important here is it's always going to be a positive number. It just depends on if you're in the decrease adjustment or the increase adjustment. So you want to be careful of that. But I'm just going to say we're going to reduce our on-hand quantity by 10. I'm going to click post. And now if I go take a look at, let's take a look at my, I can do it right from the inventory, or I can go into, I believe I can go into here. Available quantities. Remember that little tab we had, available quantities? I should have looked at it before I did it, but that's actually going to show reduced here. So you can make that valuation right in here. And if I take a look at the history, it'll show it. Now, the issue there is I don't think I had the general ledger turned on there. So one of the things you want to be careful of is that, all right, if you're doing these adjustment decreases and increases, the big question is do you want it to affect the general ledger? So for example, if I go back to my top level and I'm in that screen, I didn't have this turned on. So that's why it didn't make the entries in general ledger to reduce my inventory value. But again, it's all based on this. And then if you turn that general ledger on, you need to have your posting configurations. So maybe you have an inventory valuation account adjustment, So instead of it reducing inventory, it's going to a different account. It's just up to you how you want this to post in the system. But these adjustments can be set up any way you want them to flow and post into GL and into inventory, depending on your needs. So basically, go ahead and play with those, especially once you get into a test environment. Go ahead and set up your transaction definitions for inventory, put some transactions through, test them. And again, if you remember, one recommendation, even if you don't have a test environment, is under the security, go ahead and turn these edits on to all and these deletes on to all, because you can put some transactions through and then you can delete them out. And the worst thing you're going to have to do is reset your number sequences for each type of transaction if you want to get it back to 1 before you go live. So go ahead and test these through, and we'll see you in the next sessions for inventory. Thank you.